So this is the core metric for retail. Traffic multiplied by conversion multiplied by average order size equals sales. So I'm going to explain what this means, and then even though it might seem quite intuitive, it's amazing how many people can't burn this into their brain. So I'm going to use an example of a food court within the mall to define each of these variables. So here we have a picture of a food court, and given any day, there's people that would enter and exit the food court. So just imagine you have an imaginary guy at the entrance of the food court with a counter in his hand. And then every time someone would enter the food court, he would count that on his counter. So I call this traffic. So in this particular instance, to make the math work, I'm going to say 1,000 people entered this food court today. Besides traffic, I've heard it called other things as well. I believe in the Amazon market space, they actually call it sessions. So you will hear me use those terms interchangeably. Traffic and or sessions. So today, 1,000 humans entered into this food court. Conversions. So of those 1,000 people that entered into the food court, how many of them actually stood in the line of your restaurant? So let's say that number is 20%. So 1,000 people entered, 20% of those people actually decided to stand in the line of your restaurant and place an order. So if we do the formula, again, 1,000 people came into the food court, 20% of those actually decided to stand in your line and place an order. So 1,000 times 20% is 200 orders. Now if you look at this right here, so we've defined the traffic of 1,000, we've defined the conversion of 20%, and in the back of my head I know that equals 200 orders. So now that we have those 200 orders of those people waiting in the line of our restaurant, let's say the average order size or the average amount a customer purchases is actually $10. So in this particular combo meal, yeah, it's probably around $10. So we'll take those 200 orders. Each customer spent $10, so 200 customers times $10, that is $2,000. So traffic times conversion times average order size, you multiply all of those and we get $2,000, which is actually the sales number. So that's how sales come about in retail, and these are the metrics that we use. So let's say that you got a job as the marketing manager for your restaurant within the mall, and they asked you to raise the sales. There's 3 levers here that we can play with. A, you can try to raise the traffic. B, you can try to raise the conversion. C, you can try to raise the average order size. Or D, you can try to do all of the above. So let's talk about traffic first. How can you get more people to come into the food court? Well, you could have stood outside with a sign saying, hey, come into the food court, come into the food court. And let's say a guy standing outside of the food court, instead of getting 1,000 people to enter the food court, now you got 1,200 people to enter that food court. So let's look at the math there. Originally you had 1,000 people, 20% of them decided to stand in your line. They averaged spent $10 each, and that was $2,000. But now, because you had a guy standing out with a sign, you got 1,200 people to enter the food court. That's a 200 increase, times 20% decided to stand in your line, and they still bought a $10 item. So by putting someone out in front of the store or in front of the food court, you were able to raise your sales from $2,000 to $2,400. Let's look at conversion now. So what do people do with conversion inside of a food court? Well, you could have had somebody stand out in front of your restaurant giving away free samples away, and then data tells us that if they take that free sample, most likely they're probably going to stand in the line of your restaurant. So let's say that you did that, and instead of normally getting 20% of the people to stand in the line of the restaurant, by handing out food samples, you were able to get 30% to stand in the line. Now let's look at that math. Originally, 1,000 people came in, times the 20% conversion, times the $10 average order size was $2,000. But now because you had someone standing outside of the restaurant giving away free samples, you still had 1,000 people coming in, but now 30% decided to stand in your line, times the $10. Now you've raised your sales from $2,000 to $3,000. Let's look at the final item, which was average order size. So how can you get them to purchase even more? So in this example, I'm going to tell my salespeople, would you like an apple pie with that? So instead of the normal $10 item that they were purchasing, now you got people getting an extra apple pie with that, which would give you an $11 average order size. Looking at the math again, originally we had 1,000 times 20% times 10%, which was $2,000. But now because you were able to upsize them, upsell them, now it was, $1,000 times 20% times $11 because the upsize is now $2,420. So when you look at these particular scenarios, original, here's what we were able to do by raising the traffic. Here's what we were able to do by raising the conversion. And here's what we were able to do by raising the average order size. I guess if you were a savant, you could raise the traffic and the conversion and the average order size, and you would have nearly doubled sales. Now, the question is that this example that I gave was just to define the terms so that you could relate them to something you can understand. In the next section, I'm going to show how does this actually relate to Amazon and how do we change these levers in Amazon.